Hello, everyone. Hope you're doing well. Back by popular demand. We recorded one a couple of months ago, Nick, and some people said, "Oi, get Nick over. It's a transfer window." So I thought I'd maybe loan him for an hour.
Yes. Popular demand by some, not by everyone, but enough people enjoyed it. So that's the main thing.
If one person asks for it, that's enough for me.
Yeah.
I'm not. Listen, I am. I'm like, if some one person says, "Can you cover a video on that?" I'm like, "Yeah, I'll do that. Yeah, I'll take that.
Yeah,
I'll take
why
that.
not? Why not? Look, it's good to get different opinions, isn't it?
Yeah. Anyway, how you doing anyway? You keeping well?
Yeah, I'm doing all right. Apart from the little domestic issue that we won't go into that I just told you about. Little, no one that knows me will be surprised. It was dog related, and very smelly. So yeah, I had to make it home from work to make this show. But yeah, so it's all good. I'm good at the moment. Yourself?
Yes, I'm good. Do you know something? I think the signing of Kalvin Phillips has really helped me, Nick.
Yes.
I was a bit grumpy. Going out the Carabao Cup, I found myself grumpy for quite some time actually after it, and then I was still grumpy about it going into the Bristol City one, and then to get put out of the FA Cup as well. I was a bit frustrated. Yeah. But the signing of Kalvin Phillips has somewhat given me a bit of a lift and perked me up, and it's helped me get over being eliminated from the domestic cups. Am I over it completely? Probably not, because I hold them in such high regard. And I think there was an opportunity there, but I think it's got me excited for the next few games. That, as well as Bowen coming back and then Kudus being eliminated from African nations, it's sort of like, all right, we're maybe missing
Paqueta's
one player
back in
for the
training.
team.
Paqueta's back in training. Yeah.
So, yeah, I'm feeling good, Nick. But anyway, Kalvin Phillips on loan from Manchester City for the remainder of the season. What are you thinking about it?
Yeah. No, look, you can't knock it. There is no way on this planet that he can't improve our team. That's a fact. I had my reservations about the deal when there was kind of alluding to the fact that it was going to be like Lingard-esque. There was going to be no option to buy and stuff like that, which is, I don't ever like that, because even if it isn't going to happen in the summer, I'd like to see some level of commitment from the player that's coming in, just in case it does go well. And we've got that with Kalvin Phillips. And like I say, I don't know. I know what I would do with that midfield. And if it goes the way that I think it should, then 100% it's going to make us a completely different team. You know, if we end up with a midfield three of Alvarez, Phillips, and my preference would be Peta, but if it's James Ward-Prowse in the 10, fine. That midfield three is phenomenal. But my fear is that we haven't bought a defender. We've got shaky defence. Zuma's one slip away from, I'm sure, the end of his career. It makes me panic whenever he goes down. Mavropanos is struggling at times. He's still making mistakes. And I worry that David Moyes hasn't fixed a midfield problem. He's fixed a defensive problem. He's going to bring Phillips into play CDM and try and put Alvarez at the back. That, for me, that doesn't improve us. That doesn't improve us, I don't think. I think Phillips with Alvarez, yes, amazing. But and he is a great player. Statistically, he's brilliant. We've seen how he was with Leeds. I'm curious to see how well he does playing for a different style of manager, because we've only ever known him under Bielsa and Pep. I suppose we've seen him under Southgate, who's quite defensive, but that was next to Declan Rice. And Declan Rice is a disciplined one for England, and it kind of frees him up. So I'm curious to see that. I'm also a bit concerned about his injury record and the fact that he hasn't played since early November as well. And he will have to go straight into the team. I'm assuming that Moyes isn't going to bed him in. He's going to go straight in. But yeah, I think if he does the right thing and if he doesn't rely on loyalty and he just looks at it as a blank canvas and picks the right players for this team, we could have some team pushing on into the second part of the season. Just that one signing, because listen, I'm not. It's not. I hate having a moan about Suchik all the time. I don't feel like I should still be doing it. We shouldn't still be talking about this. I know he offers things with the way that Moyes plays. He's a threat in both boxes. He's a box crasher. He's defensively good. But I just think that is very not a good enough reason to sacrifice a midfield player for that. That's the area that I think that we need to improve. We've struggled. A lot of people have said that we replaced Declan Rice brilliantly. I thought we did after the first 2 or 3 games. As the season's gone on, I've gone, no, we haven't got a midfield. Alvarez, great. James Ward-Prowse and Souček. Oh my God, that's a car crash. I don't like the pair of them in midfield together. So James Ward-Prowse has always looked better when he's been playing further forward, hasn't he? When he's been up the field, he presses, he can create. We know that. But yeah, so I'm like you. I'm incredibly excited about it, but I'm nervous because I don't know what Moyes is going to do. And if
I don't know what he's going to do either. To be fair, it's hard to work it out because I think the difference between this signing and some of the others he's made is, like, he will go straight into the team. Moyes has wanted him for years. This is a David Moyes player as you're going to get.
Yeah.
Now, the first couple of games he might not because of match sharpness, but I read an article earlier about Kalvin Phillips. It was fantastic, but it basically suggested that Manchester City's training so good, it's similar to match. So almost like his match sharpness, he's got it. Although he hasn't been playing, he should have it because of the standards that's required at Manchester City, that he's been playing at such a high level that actually he's probably okay to go straight in. So if he does go straight in, like you said, it's a case of, well, who comes out? And there's two big contenders in Ward-Prowse and Souček, but you do struggle to sort of persuade yourself that he will drop either of them. He will drop Souček or he will drop Ward-Prowse. So then, like you say, you start doing the whole, well, who is the one that comes out? Is it centre back? Is Alvarez going to go back there? I'm not convinced he will. I'm not convinced he'll play Alvarez centre back. I think he's an option for centre back, and should we ever find ourselves short in that particular area, it would be something I was against. But if Zuma and Mavropanos is available for Bournemouth, that has to be the centre back pairing, in my opinion. And Gerrard to come back. And I'm not the biggest fan of Ogbonna anymore. I think he's been a terrific servant for us, but I'm not sure. He's had some good games, but I think he's also had just as many bad ones this season as he has had good ones. I don't want to.
It's time for Ogbonna, I think.
Yeah. So I don't want to see Alvarez used as a centre back in an emergency situation or during the game when, if we're defending a lead, he can slip in there and make it a 3 at the back. And I've liked the games where he has played almost as a hybrid centre-back at times, where he's dropped in there out of possession, or in possession he's dropped in there to make it a back 3. I like that. And I suppose having Kalvin Phillips in midfield allows him to do it. So, difficult one. We'll know more after Bournemouth. And if Peta's not 100% fit, I think it kicks the can down the road. I would not be surprised if you see Phillips, Alvarez, Ward-Prowse and Souček in midfield in that game. And then you see Kudus and Bowen as the two sort of out-and-out attackers, and Paqueta's not available. So I think
while Paqueta's recovering, this addition enables us to not put ourselves in a position where you've got to force someone back quickly. So that's good. Yeah. You can actually let Paqueta recover, which we didn't do last time, which is why he ended up injured. So according to his missus anyway, who's wasn't very pleased with the medical stuff. But no. Look, it can only be a good thing for us. It can. I'm just desperate for. That's going to be a sure sign for me that West Ham are progressing when Souček comes out the team. Honestly, do you know what I'm saying? though?
Yeah. But I think the start of last season, Moyes showed he would drop Souček because he did drop him initially for Paqueta.
Yeah.
But he put him in very, very quickly. He put him back in. But I do think there was an initial couple of games where Souček found himself on the bench in order to accommodate Paqueta directly next to Declan Rice and moved him further forward. And it was while we were working out how to use, or Moyes was working out how to use Paqueta, Souček did make way. But like I said, he came in pretty quickly. He came back in because the results weren't going our way. So it'd be interesting to see what he does. But I think this could actually free up Souček as well, in the sense that if you've got Alvarez and Phillips in midfield, having Souček further up the pitch isn't necessarily a bad thing. He's not as good as pressing as Ward-Prowse is, but I think he possesses a different goal threat to Ward-Prowse and is arguably a better goal threat in open play than what Ward-Prowse is. So you've got options there now, and I think this is where I don't want to see a one-glove-fits-all solution in midfield. I'd like to see us mix it up depending on who the opposition is as to what the composition of midfield is, but I certainly do think Kalvin Phillips is good enough to walk into our starting 11.
Yeah,
I think he's
undoubtedly
brilliant. I think he's a fantastic player. I think comes across as a really good person as well off the pitch, which is potentially important. That article I read had a phrase of low maintenance, high ability, I think, was the phrase used about Kalvin, and I liked it. I did like that phrase actually attributed to him. What about the deal itself, though? Like you said, we've got the option to buy there, but I think the club have done really well here, Nick. I think we've protected ourselves so that. Just to quickly interrupt you, myself and Nick recorded this on Thursday when we believed there was going to be an option to buy in the Kalvin Phillips loan deal. So for the next few minutes, what we discuss isn't really relevant anymore, but I think it's a good discussion nonetheless. But the rest of the podcast is still relevant, so stick around, don't go anywhere, but just ignore the bit about the option to buy. In every scenario is protected here. So you've got the first one, which is Moyes the manager or not? And then you've got the second one, it has Kalvin Phillips done well or not?
Yeah.
So if Moyes stays next season and Kalvin Phillips has done well, then we can buy him. If Moyes stays but Phillips hasn't done well, we can give him back to Man City and say, no, thank you, we don't want him. Yeah. Likewise, if Moyes goes but he's done well and the new manager wants him, we can buy him. And Moyes goes and he's not done well, we can get rid of him. I think the club have protected themselves in the sense that Phillips does well, but also protected us so that if Moyes goes or Phillips doesn't go well, we can pack him back to Man City.
Yeah, I agree. I don't think it's a long-term deal. I think it's only a deal for this season. I do, even though there's an option in there. Yeah. The club were very keen to express the fact. I know Gonzo interpreted that as something different, that Sullivan's coming out sort of saying, putting pressure on. You wouldn't do that now. You do that in the negotiation stage. I think they're just very keen to align people's expectations to say, this is expensive. We're paying a lot of money for this guy. His wages are high.
Nick? I don't know. Obviously, my opinion may change depending on what Kalvin Phillips does, right? I'm not sure I want to buy him for 40 million.
I don't. No. That's what I mean. So the long-term aspect, you think you've got James Ward-Prowse, who's 29 now. We've got to start bringing the average age of the team down at some point. He's 28, 29 in February. He's got a long history of injuries. I don't think he is a player that's going to play until he's 30, 33, 34, not at the highest level. That tends not to happen with players that are, like him. And he's had a vast array of injuries as well. Yeah. Calf, knee. I think there was a hip injury. He's had shoulder injuries.
Shoulder, like 3 times that shoulder injury occurred.
Yeah, exactly. So it's a big risk. And even if he lowers his wage demands from 150 grand a week, it's not going to be low. So it's an expensive deal. And you would like to think that, yes, mid-season, go out in January, get an established player that can come in, hit the ground running to help you deliver. Because I suppose in real terms, if his cost us 6 million, he's only got to get us another couple of places in the league and he's paid that off. But you don't have a director of football and a coaching structure to go out and buy Kalvin Phillips. That's not what you do. I don't think the reason you put that in place goes back to the Polina analogy that I use a lot, where we were linked with him from Fulham for 80 million, 28 or 29-year-old Polina. We shouldn't be the team that buy him for 80 million from Fulham. We should be the team that buy him for 20 million from Sporting Lisbon. Yeah. That's what I think. That's where we need to be going. Surely that's why this very expensive infrastructure is being put in place. The likes of Steidten and co are not going to be cheap, are they?
Yeah, we'll talk about that in a second. Before we do, when we came into January transfer window, when we got linked to Kalvin Phillips and Amanda Broya in particular, I thought, okay, here's where we maybe get an indication of what the board's intentions are with David Moyes beyond the summer, because we've got 2 players that Moyes has really wanted historically available. So if the club will get them, that would suggest that they're perhaps behind David Moyes long term, but the club allow those players to bypass them. The opportunity to sign these 2 players the manager really wants, it would suggest that they're going to do away with them. Well, they've gone down the middle, really. They've gone and got the player on loan.
They're kicking the can down the road.
There's no big financial commitment. They back the manager for the rest of the season by getting
100%. They're giving Moyes the tools that he has asked for to do the best that he can do this season, which will benefit West Ham. To do as well as we can do this season.
But there's not much clues as to what they're intending on doing.
I don't think they know, Gio. I mean, like I say, I do think they know. But I think that their mind is for changing. You know what my opinion is. My opinion is that David Moyes will not be here next summer. That's what I believe. Could that change if by some miracle he wins another trophy and everything else? Of course, Sullivan's a basket case. He changes his mind from day to day. But that is, listen, I agree with this strategy as well with David Moyes. And I've been, when the talk came out about giving him a contract in January, I was like, why? Yeah. You think you've got a man like David Moyes he's in the last 4 months of his contract. He's not linked with anyone. If it was any other manager, if it was a more desirable manager, they'd be linked with other jobs. There'd be this, there'd be that. There's nothing with David Moyes. We're not going to get involved in a tug of war. It's risk-free. The only risk that you've got, when I say risk-free, what I mean is we can run this till the end of the season. If he does well and they want to employ him, David Moyes will stay. He'll stay. If, however, you give him a new contract now and it goes to crap, second half of the season goes badly, even with these new additions, and you've now got this manager on a 3-year deal, he's playing awful football, you're out of Europe, the mood of the fan base will change completely. Sullivan's then got to go out and try and sell season tickets. So from a club and a business perspective, it made no sense whatsoever to give him a deal now, because it's almost like it's risky giving him a contract in January, and there's no risk letting it run, because you've got the choice at the end of it whether you want to keep him or not.
He's on reasonably big wages as well in regards to manager. $5 million a year, like you said. If he gets a 3-year contract, it's $50 million to then sack him. It's a substantial financial hit that you would have to take, and the club's already panicking enough as it is about sort of money, rather than adding a $50 million loss. I think they've done the right thing waiting. I hope they continue to wait, because I think Moyes is a results-based manager at West Ham.
He is 100%.
So in order to do that, you have to then see if he achieves the results or not. And I think to go early would be foolish at best, and blatantly stupid at worst, quite frankly. But I think they're undecided. And do you know what? I think undecided is the right thing. And they've probably got intentions of giving him a new contract. And if the season finished today and we're 6, and imagine they will give him a new contract. I still think he's on to get one.
Yeah.
But that's because I still think that we may qualify for European football next season at this point. I do think that. I know you might disagree, but I think with a bit of luck.
No. With this appointment of Phillips, with the fact that we've got Bowen and Kudus coming back, with the fact that we got through a December period that I thought was going to be catastrophic for us, we did way better over that period. I actually owe you £50 because you took that bet, didn't you? So I do actually owe you £50 because I said that we was going to be 13th or lower come December the 23rd. Completely
January 23rd, your birthday. How you forgot that date? Your birthday?
Yeah, it was my birthday, January the 23rd. So yeah, happy birthday, me. Cost myself £50.
It was happy birthday to you from me as well. Thank you very much. Crispy, please. Crispy one, thank you.
But yeah, so I got that completely wrong. We did far better than what I anticipated. We got those injured players. They're coming back. It feels like everything's it's almost like we got the injuries that we was going to get in the best period possible as well. Where we didn't have, too many games. We've had a fair gap. The part of the season that's really annoyed me, like you said at the start of the video, was the cups. We've gone out of them. That is going to make it easier now in the league and in the Europa. I think that we could do well. I'm not too sure we could get top 6. That would be outstanding. I'm not too sure we could get top 6, but I think we could definitely get in the top 8. What you was talking about before. Now I believe that we can get in the top 8. I don't think it would be a miracle for us to win the Europa League, and that's nothing to do with David Moyes either. It's because it's a cup and there's a lot of good teams in there. It's always a lottery to win a cup. This is a really competitive competition this year. So you can't pin your hopes on that. You can't. You've almost got to build on the fact that you've done so well in the league and you've put all that work in. We're in 6th. I think that's our path into Europe. Gio is through the league. I think they do have to almost focus on that because it's going to be very important. Whether David Moyes stays as you think he will, or whether he goes, it's important that we do well this year. And I think the only thing that could possibly change path, because I do believe David Moyes is going, would be him winning a trophy. If he won a trophy 2 years running, that's possibly the only thing that I believe could alter path. Because when you look at the team that we've got on paper at the moment, yeah, fair enough, 6th place would be amazing. But if you look at the team that we've got now, that's a top 6 team. That's achieving you could argue achieving what you should be achieving. We've got probably the best front 3 outside of Man City and Liverpool. I think that's undoubted. When they're fit, Kudus, Bowen, and Peta, certainly better than bloody Arsenal's. And with a midfield of Alvarez, just say you had a midfield of Alvarez, Peta, and Kalvin Phillips. Is there a better central midfield than that on paper? Again, that's better than Arsenal's.
I mean, yeah, because I'm not a big fan of Havertz playing centre midfield.
This is what
But
I mean.
I guess if you're to argue it with Rice and Odegaard getting that midfield, I think they do. I think that's 2-1 Arsenal.
Well, Odegaard over Paqueta. If Paqueta was in the 10, you take Odegaard. I wouldn't.
I think my makeup would be Rice, Odegaard, and Paqueta.
Rice, Odegaard, and Paqueta. Oh, right, okay, yeah. But you're not thinking that you've got David Moyes as manager, so there would be two.
Peta as manager. That's my midfield.
There are two CDMs. So like for me, I would always do that. I think Alvarez is the CDM. He's a 6. He sits there, and then you have 2 8s or an 8 and a 10 toggling on a pivot either side of him. But we're never going to have that. It's always going to be the inverse.
I think we might, Nick. I think Phillips has shown he's got that little bit of ability to be a box-to-box midfielder about him. And I think, Ward-Prowse has shown that he can do that, and Souček's shown he can do that. So I think we might... Alvarez's role changes every game. Nearly every game, Alvarez is doing something slightly different. At the start of the season, he was sitting with Ward-Prowse and Souček either side of him, and it felt more of a 3.
Yeah.
As the season's gone on, we've seen Ward-Prowse sort of coming up and helping Bowen, and Souček sitting alongside Alvarez, and he was a bit more of a conventional double pivot in midfield there. Then other games we've seen him dropping into the back 3. Brighton away, for example, he was dropping in the back 3 quite a lot to help out, and it was a tactical game plan and it worked. So Alvarez's role does change quite a lot game to game, and I do wonder if we might see him go back to being more of a central midfielder or sitting back, being a bit more disciplined, because I feel for the last few games, maybe Alvarez has been getting forward. Now, when I say getting forward, he's not been making runs behind the defence, but he's been popping up in the final third, with he scored, didn't he, not that long ago? And that's not something you've seen at the start of the season. So I do wonder what his role's going to be with Kalvin Phillips there, because maybe Moyes will use Alvarez as a box-to-box midfield and have Phillips. I don't think he will, and I hope.
I think it'll be Phillips. It'll be Phillips.
Yeah, I think
with Alvarez is probably a bit of an adaptation thing though, because look, he was a CDM for Ajax, but Ajax by definition play higher up the pitch, so he would have always been getting further forward. But the other thing as well, I think what we've been lacking massively with the midfield 3 that we've got, not so much the 3, but certainly when you've got the 2 of Souček and James Ward-Prowse, is that ball carrying capability. And we saw that in Bristol, against Bristol, and in the last game as well. And, we was relying on Emerson cutting inside to drive the ball through the middle and Johnson to come inside. And I think that's what Alvarez has been doing. And you need that, because you need someone that can physically progress the ball forward. And I think the reason that we need a ball carrier in the middle is because of the way that we play football. You can ping the ball. Coaching football, you will always say the ball moves faster than any man. So if you move the ball, that's going to get you up the pitch quicker. But when you don't have the options there, when you don't have the bodies forward, when most of them are back because we're always kind of in a bit of a lower position, you need someone to progress the team up the pitch with the ball and bring the team with you. So that's why sometimes it does break down and it just comes back to us, because if you do get the ball out of your feet, I think that might be why James Ward-Prowse passes sideways and backwards a lot, and we all criticise him, because when you pick up the ball from deep, everyone is deep with you. So you look forward, you're like, where do I go? So if you haven't got the ability to carry that ball up and drive it, we're stuck. Or you just hoof it into space and wait for the ball to come back again.
Well, that hoofing allows us, because statistically, certainly for a couple of games ago, we were the fastest attacking team in the Premier League, weren't we?
Yeah.
And I've seen that statistic, and it's not a statistic I've ever seen before this season. It was one of those new ones that's popped up, and I think, I don't think I've seen this doing the rounds. But I did think, what determines this? Because if you launch it 60 yards and it hits Kudus, is that you attacking in 1 second? Is that you?
Probably. I would imagine so.
Determines it. But yeah, the Kalvin Phillips one's big for me. What next then? Is there anyone or anything in particular you'd like to see for the remainder of the January transfer window?
Yeah, I'm going to murder his name now. The AZ Alkmaar Japanese right back Sagawara. We're linked heavily with him, according to all of the ITKs, of which I'm not. We're linked heavily with him. Been having a look at him. He does look good. He's a right back, right wing back, right winger. Scores goals, assists. Well snappy in the tackle, quick, very technical. And I think that there's legs in that deal, because we know commercially, David Sullivan has been wanting to get himself a player from that region for a long time, because he wants to sell shirts, doesn't he? Apparently one of the most And look, commercially, it does make sense. Apparently, one of the best signings that Spurs have ever made was Son, because of the interest that you get from all the fans, all the shirts they sell and everything else, and so I suppose tickets and what have you. But that would be massive for me, because I am sorry. Well, you know yourself, and it isn't because I think. Listen, I think Souček and Soufal did an amazing job for us when they came in. I think that they were the right players at the time. But if we're going to progress, those are players that we've got to leave behind. I'm afraid we need to move on from them. And Soufal does need replacing. He's not a technically gifted player. He isn't even particularly the best defender. He's not really. I mean, he gets plaudits for people. Gary did it earlier on a WhatsApp group. He said Gary Soufal will always have that moment when you had Aston Villa's version of Jack Grealish and he was in his pocket, and you had all those memes going around. Do you remember that? With because he pocketed him. But when you think
Ryan Fredericks, right?
But when you think back to that, we doubled up on him. Fredericks was doing all the legwork. That's what was happening. He was tracking him. Soufal never took Grealish out of the game on his own, and I think that also impacts on. I know that the forward players have got to get back. I get that, but Soufal needs his hand held a lot defensively. If he's going up against someone who's quick, which typically a Premier League winger is going to be quick, then Kudus, who's very good at doing it, getting back and covering. I didn't realise how much work he does, Gio, until I watched him live. Kudus, my God, gets up and down that side. He's phenomenal. I can see why Moyes has, probably reluctantly fallen in love with him, because you can't take him out the team. He's brilliant defensively. He's brilliant offensively as well. But that would free him up. You need self-sufficient players. Emerson's self-sufficient, isn't he?
Yeah, definitely. I think Emerson's really good in all aspects of the game. He's not really got a weakness, has he?
No. So if we improve that side, that gives us the that is something we need to improve. I wouldn't necessarily, with David Moyes, bother with a striker. I know everyone wants a striker. What's the point? I think we've got enough forward players at the moment. You've got Antonio to come back. Playing with, if you think about it, I know the forward gives you a focal point and it gives you an out ball. That's the main thing. That's one of our main problems, isn't it, Gio? When we're in terms of hoofing the ball long, you either need someone that can run the channels or someone that can sort of fight off a defender and hold it off. We don't have that unless we've got Antonio in the team, but I just don't think we need to play like that with the players that we've got. I think if we do progress the ball up the field properly, and if you imagine if you're Peta in the 10 and you've got this new chap, Ibrahim, what's his name?
Osman
on the left, you've got Kudus on the right, you've got Bowen down the middle. The options that Paqueta's got, he'd have a field day.
Yeah,
he'd have an absolute field day. He'd be slipping balls through left, right, and centre. We'll be cutting teams apart. So I don't think you might, with David Moyes, maybe an evolution of the way that he plays could be just don't bother with a striker. Man City won the league without a striker.
Well, Arsenal, I know they've got Jesus there, but he's not a traditional number 9, is he?
No. So he won the league without a striker. So if anything, it would be now. Obviously, Osman looks like that's going to happen. Sugawara, I'm hoping that happens. He is linked. I know we've got Bradley Lock, or it's getting closer. That's the left back for Brest. Who, tell you what, I've looked into. He looks good. So we're loaning him back, and he's coming back in the summer. But what a player he is! He looks brilliant. If you had 30 or 40 million to spend, probably a centre back, I would say now, and that's not if Aguero goes. I want to keep Aguero and probably replace Zuma on the right side. And it's just a shame for I'm not writing Dinos off at all. I just think he's kind of struggled a little bit. I think if you really do want to go out and spend some money, I think a proper commanding right-sided centre back in the mould of Zuma, but with knees, would be good.
Zuma's going to need replaced. So whether it's this summer or next summer, he's going to need replaced in the next 18 months, and otherwise we're just going to cause ourselves a little bit of bother. So I get that. I get why you'd want a right back as well. I think it's something that can be addressed in the summer, but identifying the player now would make sense. And when you said the rumours got legs, well, we know Tim Steidten is in Germany as well, so and he's been at the Asian Cup, so he's obviously up to something, because in theory, he should be in Denmark right now dealing with Ibrahim Osman and negotiating that. So unless he's maybe meeting representatives in Germany, or he's trying to do two deals at once or something.
Intermediaries. See, I think this is Tim time. So I think if you go back to the summer, it feels like Moyes has to have a player. Moyes got James Ward-Prowse, and then stuff started happening. Tim started getting on his jet and getting excited. It feels like the Kalvin Phillips one is the peace offering to Moyes. There you go. Have your player. 4 months, you're sorted.
You say peace offering. I think that's harsh. I think it's a good balance, Nick. I think it's a healthy balance for the club to have.
Oh, no, I know. But what I'm saying is I think what this will allow us to do now, because David Moyes has got a player that he really wants, he's less likely to be obstructive to players that come in afterwards. So they've given, do you know what I mean? They've got to manage, whoever's at the top have got to manage David Moyes as well. So they've got to keep him happy. So by giving him his key target, and Kalvin Phillips, who we know he's been tracking for an awful long time, he's going to be happy. This allows Tim to go out and do good recruitment for the club for the future. Because did you watch the program on the Sky Sports on the overlap with what I was talking about, the whose responsibility should it be to buy players? And you had Ian Wright, you had Neville, you had Roy Keane, and they was just having that discussion. And it's amazing the differing views on it. Ian Wright was literally the manager. It's got to be the manager. They're his players. He knows what he needs. It's got to be the manager. And Neville, who we know he's got an interest because he's kind of in that. He runs a club. He runs Salford, doesn't he? And Kane were in agreement. They was like, well, no, because a manager only looks at what they need now. That's literally it. He said they're bloody minded. They're under so much pressure. It's all about getting the results now. They'll go out and get players that are good for now, but not necessarily the right buy for the club. So that's where the director of football is important. It is important.
Understandable, because this is why I always argue when Moyes this season is in the final year of his contract. That's why I always think it's dangerous having a manager with that little time on his contract there. Because what is the incentive for Moyes to blood Mubama when he's probably not going to be ready for another year or something? Moyes might not be here to benefit from it, though. But
I know. But Gio, look, listen. Even I know you're not a Moyes fan, but even if you were, even the most ardent Moyes fans know that those players are not really going to get a chance under David Moyes. They're not. Not really.
This is where the club need to do better to bridge the gap between the under-21s and the first team. There needs to be. That's why I'm excited by the signing or the potential signing of Ibrahim Osman, and this is what I've been waiting for Steidten to do. You know,
it's the type of signing.
I give him credit for negotiating the transfers of Kudus and Alvarez, but I will not give him any credit for identifying Kudus and Alvarez. Now, I mean, there's some conflicting reports as to who initially wanted, but regardless, even if we were to say Steidten turned up, said these are the players I want, and they were his players, I don't think identifying Alvarez and Kudus is that impressive. Negotiating them and getting to West Ham, yes, big tick. But identifying them, I struggle to do that. It's like the link to Boniface.
You're impressed with Kalvin Phillips?
No, not the identification of Kalvin Phillips. I'm impressed with the signing of Kalvin Phillips.
Right, okay.
But going, oh yeah, let's go get Kalvin. Oh, but it's not difficult, is it?
I know what you're saying. You're going out buying established players.
Yeah, players that everybody knows about, right?
Yeah.
You and I know about. Ibrahim Osman, now that impresses me. Identifying someone that's hardly anyone's heard of and has played 30 senior appearances in football. So unless you're a big fan in Danish football, or a big fan of the Academy of Ghana, I struggle to know why, unless you play Football Manager and this is one of those wonder kids and stuff. I don't know. But this is why I'm like, hello, this is what I'm hoping Steidten brings to West Ham. And there has to be a healthy balance between the players that Moyes wants and he will play immediately, and the players that Steidten brings in that might not be ready yet, but will be ready in future. My concern is how we get players like Ibrahim Osman ready for future. Because there's no evidence the club's either good at developing them. Declan Rice aside, there's no real evidence.
I don't think anyone can take credit for a world-class talent developing. It's like Wayne Rooney. These players just develop and they become what they are.
I think they can all take their share. I think Bilic can take a bit, Pellegrini can take a bit, Moyes can take a bit, Mark Phillips can take a bit. Anyone that's been involved in his development, I think they can all take it.
But I do think there are certain players that are just going to get where they're going because they're so hardworking, you know, and they don't make the same mistake twice. You know, they learn and they evolve and they kind of they don't get worried by the knocks and everything else. But I'll make you right, because this is the thing, and this is where it all falls down. This director of football model, going out finding the pearls. Well, you can go out and find an Osman for a 19-year-old with not very much experience, and we can pay 15 million for him. But typically at Leverkusen, where he was before, or any club that have this model, they are developed in the team. So you have to have a way, and you have to set these players up for success. I've said this before. It's like Mabama. Mabama's been given minutes, but he's never been set up for success. He's not. He's been stuck up there in an Antonio role on his own, unsupported, running around like a headless chicken, doing what everyone else does. That is not setting him up for success. Setting Mabama up for success would be when you're 1-0 or 2-0 up, and you've got Kudus one side, you've got Bowen the other, you've got Peta behind him, stick Mabama up the middle. That is setting Mabama up for success. If he doesn't score then and he doesn't look good, then you can think to yourself, well, look, hang on a minute, maybe there's not much in this. But this is what you have to do. You've got to put, we're not going out and buying, like you just said, a Kudus who's going to come on and do what he did, because Kudus was an already established, brilliant player. So he's going to come off the bench with 10 minutes to go and bang one in against Newcastle and look like a world beater. Osman probably isn't. He's probably going to look a bit crap at times because he's come into a different league, and players like that probably will. But with the David Moyes mentality, with players like this, like I say, he doesn't necessarily set them up for success. And if they don't look good straight away, they're gone. They fall out of favour. He doesn't persist with them.
While I can't disagree with what you said in regards to like Moyes' influence on it, I think it's also a club thing though, because when you talk about Mubama setting him up for success, I would argue sending him out on loan and getting him minutes would be a route to setting Mubama up for success as well. And that's what Brighton do. Brighton will buy players, and they use their links in Belgium and Tony Bloom's club in particular. If they've got nowhere else to put him, they send him there. But like Mitoma, they buy him, they loan him out, and then they use him in under 21s if they need to. But ideally, they get him out on loan, so they go away and learn their trade elsewhere. And this is where I'm sort of, while I'm pleased we're signing Osman, there's a little bit of me that thinks, now what? What's the point? Are we loaning him out? Are we sending him back to Denmark?
What's the pathway? What's the pathway through? You know, because you know yourself, right? Osman could be a better option than Mikel Antonio. He could be. But if you've got Mikel Antonio and Osman on the bench and you need an impact sub, Antonio's coming on. It's the way that Moyes does work, because Moyes does have a seniority thing in his he does. It's the way he does things. He has his, you can call them favourites, which I suppose all managers do to a degree. But I do think that some players have to prove an awful lot more than others in a David Moyes team.
I think that's maybe applicable to all managers though.
But I think Souček, you know, he can play crap for an entire year and never get dropped. Ben Johnson can have one bad game and he's gone.
Yeah, I agree with that. But like, I think all managers have it. And, you know, you look at Arsenal, Arteta's almost refusing to play kids from the academy at the minute. Arteta's not using any youngsters. Whereas you look at Liverpool and Klopp's throwing them in Carabao Cup semi-finals. He's got Bradley playing at right back because Trent's out. Gomez is needed at left back. He's now got an 18, 19-year-old playing at right back in the Carabao Cup semi-final. So it is difficult. I'm just looking at West Ham saying, well, what's the plan with Osman? And because the manager needs to be on board with this signing. Now, X said he is. X said that Steidten, Noble and Moyes all like him. That's good. That's promising. But I need to see it now, which is giving him 20 minutes. And if he plays crap, giving him 20 minutes the next week. And if he plays crap, giving him another 20 minutes next week.
You have to persist with them.
Yes, so that he can learn on the job. And if we're not going to do that, and Moyes doesn't want to do that, that's okay. Okay, fine. You don't want to play an unproven youngster. Then let's come up with an alternative plan for him. And I think this is why one of our subscribers made this comment. I wish I took a note of it so I could credit the subscriber. He made a really good point. He said, this is why it's clever buying him in January, because we've now got 4 or 5 months to see if he can cope. Get him in training, get him 20 minutes and 15 minutes. And if he's completely out of it in the Premier League in the summer, get him a loan for a season and put him somewhere so he can go learn over there. I think that's a wise move. But this is where I need to see evidence from the club. I want to see evidence that identifying youngsters and bringing them in is one. That's half the battle. The other half is developing them.
I don't think West Ham are quite at the stage yet where we can pay 15, which is now approaching 18 million for Osman, to then say, oh, we need to send him out on loan for a bit. I don't think West Ham are that club. So although he needs to be, this is a player, that's a fee where he at least needs to be a squad player, I think. And that's where the pressure is going to come for, and this is a working relationship between David Moyes and Tim, because this is Tim's identified this player and he needs David Moyes to help him look good. he's got to persist with this player and give this player minutes. No, do you know what I mean? No, because if obviously Osman turns into a star player, then that looks good on Tim. That's how a relationship will build and flourish between manager and director of football. It will also go the other way if Tim is not a stupid man. If he does think that David Moyes is setting the kid up to fail, that he's not giving him a fair crack, that he's doing this, and he's basically going out of his way to make Tim look a dick by wasting 18 million on a player that turned out to be a dud. And a dud he will be if you buy this 19-year-old player and he wastes away for 2 years. Because if you look at Declan Rice would never have become the player that he become as quick as he did if he weren't playing.
Yeah, I agree.
And he weren't a world-class player when he came in. He was a bit of a calamity. He made loads of mistakes when he first came in. You had to keep playing him, and then he became and he evolved into the player that he was. So we need to. This is why the Kalvin Phillips deal doesn't sit right with me. Because what about Freddie Potts, who's doing well at Wickham?
I think Potts has got a couple of years yet, though, before he's at the level of.
Yeah, I know, but what club are we going to be? Are we going to be a player that? Because you can't go half-hearted into it. Otherwise, there's just no point buying these players in the first place. If there's no mechanism to develop them, don't buy them. Just go out and buy 28, 29-year-old players for 40, 50 million. Run them into the ground and then go and buy another one. If that's how you're going to be, you can't. I think it's almost got to be the culture of your club, Gio, to bring players through. I know you always need experience. Of course you do. You need a mix of experience and whatever else. But this is where I don't think that David Moyes does fit, and I don't think he ever will. And I want him to prove me wrong. I'd love him to prove me wrong. I just don't. Oh, I don't see it. I don't see it. I mean, did you see the interview that we did on one of our shows? You might not have seen it. It's just because Gary's on a Moyes mission at the moment, and he found a clip from it was David Moyes. David Moyes talking about his time at Real Sociedad.
Okay,
and he said, and I was asking him about the problems there, and the way he answered, and he went, well, he said it was a great club. He said, but the main problem was 18 out of the 25 players they had to come from the academy. He said that was their rule. 18 of the players in the squad had to come from the academy. He said, so it was a massive problem. And you're like, well, is it?
Well,
maybe.
I haven't seen the entire clip, but I think it's something he's not used to, is it? It's just a completely different sort of culture in Spain and whatever. It's just like if you're in charge of Atletico Madrid, you can only get players from the region, so you're incredibly limited as to who you can bring in.
Bilbao as well. They're
that's it. Bilbao as well.
Bilbao.
But you're incredibly limited as to which players you can play. Stuff. But it's just different. It's just a completely different landscape. He was a manager that's used to buying players. Suddenly he's been told you can't buy anyone. You've got to use the players from the academy. He's probably going, they're not good enough. Tough. You've got to use them. You have to use them. You don't have an option. I think this January transfer window, if we sign Phillips and Osman and that's it, I think I would get very excited by that, Nick, because I think Steidten's showing Moyes, you identify who you want, and I'll go get it.
I'll support you. Yeah.
You've identified Kalvin Phillips, I'm going to go negotiate that deal. And there's not any evidence as such that Steidten did that, but from Fabrizio Romano tweeted about the deal, he said another one from Steidten. I thought, well, it's not really Steidten's player, but maybe Steidten was involved in negotiations, and I hope he was. Yeah, because that would show that our technical director is willing to get players that the manager wants, even if it doesn't necessarily fit in with how he goes about player recruitment.
I think he was probably involved to the point because David Moyes already had the relationships already there with Phillips. It was probably a very easy deal to pick up again. But where Steidten has supported the deal is he hasn't said no. Because
perhaps he's got involved with the Man City side of things, so maybe he's negotiated the terms of the loan deal. I don't know, but I hope. But
they can. I think they've all got the power of veto. I think they can. I think Steidten could obviously veto a deal. He could say no, that is a stupid deal. We can't do that. So he's obviously supporting him and said, yeah, look, I wouldn't, but if you want him, have him.
Yeah, and on the flip side, I think Moyes is supporting Steidten by saying if you're convinced that kid's interesting, go get him. And I'm hoping, and there's no doubt between us that Phillips will get played good. I'm hoping now we see evidence quickly that Moyes will utilise Osman. And I don't think I'll be surprised if he starts one game this season, Nick. I'll be surprised. I mean, I'm not expecting him to. I think it'd be unfair to expect a 19-year-old to come in and who's had less than 30 senior appearances in his career so far to suddenly start in the Premier League for West Ham.
I'd throw him in.
It's very difficult. Over
Why?
who, though? Who are you benching for that for a kid that you've never seen?
A kid that I've never seen. Well, I mean, to start off with, what I would do is I'd give him 30 minutes at the end of games to bring him in,
Yeah,
like
but
we
that's
did
my
with
point.
Kudus.
You start with that and go from there.
I'd be targeting getting him in the team in the first couple of games because Peta is not a left winger. He's not. He's just a player that is so great. It will be great wherever you put him. And we have shoehorned him out to the left because we've got to have James Ward-Prowse and Souček in the team. So they have taken his position. He is a central midfielder. He's not a left winger. So for me, Osman has to go in on the left. Imagine the pace and threat of Osman, Kudus, and Bowen in the front three, with Phillips and Alvarez in the 8, with Peta in the 10 pulling the strings. That is how we should play. That is amazing, mind-blowing stuff. Yes, I know that means that James Ward-Prowse and Souček come out. But look, if you've got a squad, use it. Make changes after 30, 40 minutes. In fact, where I think that Souček could and should be useful is the last 10, 15, 20 minutes of games, whether you're either defending a lead or you need a goal. Bring him on, make him a box crasher, start getting balls in the box. That's where Souček will be most useful. Because how often, Gio, do you watch games with West Ham and you forget he's on the pitch? Because he hardly ever touches the ball.
Yeah, I mean, that's why I'm sure it was Crystal Palace at home, or maybe in Brighton. I think it was Palace, where we took Alvarez off and we made an attacking sub, but it meant that Souček had to sort of drop deeper. So we were searching for a winner, and we were getting the ball out wide, but Souček was 30 yards away from the 18-yarder because he had defensive responsibility. I thought, this is just stupid. The one guy we need in the box can't get in the box.
It's that primitive. It's if we get a corner. That's what it comes down to.
I just frustrated me. It took me back to Bilic when was it Bilic or was it Allardyce? No, it was Allardyce. Sorry, we used to bring on Andy Carroll and take off Stuart Downing. I'm like, you're bringing off the guy to cross it for Carroll. Carroll needs him on. So for an hour, Stuart Downing would be whipping in these crosses, and Carroll would be there and bring Carroll and take Downing off, and you're like,
it makes some bizarre decisions. Can we address something now quickly on this? Now, listen, I think James Ward-Prowse, I don't think he's been helped by David Moyes. I think he started fantastically well, and then David Moyes, don't know what he's done. He's Moyesed him. He's pulled him back deeper, and he's nowhere near as effective now. He's not. In fact, he looks pretty crap in most of the games that he plays now, especially when Alvarez ain't playing. But we know but we know what he can do, right? But he was brought in not for his midfield play. He was brought in for his specialism. I think we can agree on that. That was a main thing. It was because he's a decent midfielder, but that isn't his specialism. There are better midfielders out there.
Yeah.
So he was brought in for his specialism. Has his specialism, which is set pieces, are we better than we were before? Statistically, we're not. Do you think that we are better? James Ward-Prowse is, because he takes every set piece. So every assist goes to James Ward-Prowse. Whereas before it would have been split. You'd have had Bowen taking someone else. But you'd have had Cresswell taking some. Now Prowse takes everything. But we're not scoring any more from set pieces. We scored way more in the first 2 seasons under David Moyes from set pieces. So what has changed? Because I don't even think we're that much of a threat from corners anymore. I don't
think our deliveries are better. I think Ward-Prowse is more consistent than what Fornals and Bowen have been at corners. I think Cresswell was. I've always rated Cresswell as a set piece taker, though.
I have as well.
I think his corners were just as good as Ward-Prowse's, arguably. But anyway, so I think our corners deliveries are better under Ward-Prowse than they have been under the previous ones. But I do feel, while I think I've defended Moyes enough here in this video, I do wish we'd have a set piece specialist. When you watch Arsenal against Crystal Palace and they've got that wee man who comes to the front of the, I don't know his name, he comes to the front of the dugout whenever there's a corner or set piece. Arteta, it's the only time you'll see Arteta get back. He will come away from the touchline because you only allow one guy at the front of it. So he actually goes and stands next to the seat. And this little man comes forward to watch what's going on. And you see the Gabriel goal, bang, and then it gets technically it's a Gabriel. I know it went down as an own goal, but I'm giving that to Gabriel. Bang, another one. You're like, hang on a minute. Then they're giving him credit. Liverpool have a throw-in specialist, a guy there to coach them what to do when they get a throw-in. So when I do watch us, I do sometimes wish there was a little bit more variety in our approach to corners rather than when it's an in-swinger, we know what we're going to do.
Well,
Ward-Prowse is going to hit the 6-yarder, and we're going to overcrowd the 6-yarder and hope that one of our big boys get on the end of it. I would like to see a little bit more, perhaps, planning in the.
Nevin was key to our success.
Yeah.
So apparently Nevin was the set piece guy.
Yeah,
He was the one that he was the one that kind of settled that up. And something happened last year when the goal started dropping off from set pieces. Apparently Moyes had taken Nevin off of set pieces, but then he reverted and put him back on. And we started seeing more goals from set pieces again, funny enough. But what I have noticed, I've noticed that when we take set pieces, yes, you're right, James Ward-Prowse will put the ball in the same place every time. He will, which is good. It's an art, to be able to do that, I suppose. But what we're not doing is attacking the box anymore. If you remember, when we were at our best, we used to kind of pull all the players back. You'd have a player on the keeper. You'd have a couple of obstructive bodies in the middle. But the real threats made runs into the box. Yeah. They would all huddle up at the back. They'd split. They'd move. You can't track them, and they attack the ball. They attack the area. We don't seem to do that anymore. It's like they're static bodies, and all we're doing,
as we are,
and all James Ward-Prowse does is just put the ball into the middle of a crowd of bodies.
Yeah.
Whereas I think what we should be doing is hitting an area, and the player should be attacking that area. And not always the same area, Gio. Too often with James Ward-Prowse, I see him put the ball in the same spot. It's like I said, it's a fine art, but it's literally just by that 6-yard line in the corridor of uncertainty or whatever. He hits that same spot every time. It's very, very good, but mix it up occasionally. Go a little bit deeper. Go closer. Front post. Get Souček to run close. Flick it on. But it's like we're repeating the same thing over and over again. And maybe you're right. If he is a specialist, but he doesn't appear so anymore to me. I'm not talking about his direct free kicks. I'm talking about his corners. I don't think there's anything special about him, or there's nothing special about the way West Ham are approaching.
Yeah, I don't think we're utilising him. I think that would be a fairer phrase. I think his deliveries, like you said, they are incredibly consistent. And as somebody approaching an offensive corner, Zuma should be licking his lips, really, because there's a high probability that where that ball is going to go. What it's going to do.
Yeah.
So you think if I run in there was one, I can't remember what game we were playing. I can't recall now. We had like 3 or 4 corners that were in swingers, and all of them, Mavropanos kept going to the back post. And I think, mate, what you do? It never goes. It never comes to the back post. It always hits. No. Quite often, it'll hit the front. The defending team's front man will be able to clear at the front post, and Souček attacks that post because he'll start on the keeper and make his run towards James Ward-Prowse in case it's short. He can flick it on or whatever. And Zuma is in on the keeper, but Mavropanos kept going to the back. I thought, I appreciate you there in case he overhits it, but I'm not seeing Ward-Prowse overhit them that often. He underhits them sometimes, but it's not very often he overhits them. And when they do, they tend to do like a banana swing, so by the time it gets to the back post, it's gone out for a goal kick again. So it does feel a little bit unadventurous, I think, is maybe the phrase, because Brentford often will have set pieces where everybody moves and they all know what they're doing.
Well, they've made it a fine art. I mean, you talked about throw-ins. They do that as well, don't they? They've got, they do plays. The bloke's got a playbook. They do. But why not? If you're gonna, you should use everything to your advantage to a degree, shouldn't you?
Yeah, I do not disagree whatsoever, Nick.
I'd rather a score from open play anyway. I don't care too much about set pieces. Honestly, I would. I'd rather us just cut teams open from open play. Then you ain't got to worry. You haven't got to have James Ward-Prowse putting the ball on Souček's head in the last 5 minutes to dig you out of the crap, because you're already in front and you've won and you've scored beautiful goals, which I think is the way to go. We've got the players to do it. We have. And these players that we've got up front, Kudus, Peta and Bowen, they've scored lots of goals and assisted lots as well. They've got a lot of goal involvements. And if you have a look on minimal chances, it is feeding off scraps,
Kudus and Bowen are very clinical.
So clinical. Imagine the turnaround if we was creating more for them. Do you know what I mean? Imagine if that wasn't the case and they didn't have to feed off scraps. Just, feed them, and they will score. And then you ain't got to worry if you concede. If you're 3-0 up, 4-0 up, don't matter. Just Kevin Keegan football. Just score more than the opposition.
Anyway, if we're going 4-0 up, Osman on the left wing after 2 games. I think there's a little bit of fairy tale stuff going on, Nick. But I will never ever tell a fan not to dream. That's the beauty of football. Having that hope, having that dream. That's the.
I would put Osman in. I would. I know that's not going to happen, Gio, but I
I
would do that.
wouldn't though. I wouldn't.
I just want Peta back in the middle. I don't. Honestly, I do. I'm sick of our midfield. I love Alvarez. Do you know something? If anything, why can't we put James Ward-Prowse out on the left? They're not wingers anyway. You know, Peta doesn't beat a man. He cuts inside. James Ward-Prowse has got a great delivery. If you're going to spare part someone, why not bring Peta inside, which is where he is half the game anyway? So just put him in the middle and maybe just let James Ward-Prowse out there, because you imagine that. Imagine on the left-hand side, you've got Emerson bombing on the overlap. You know, you got James Ward-Prowse whipping the ball in, and he can shoot as well. Why not just do that? Just get him out the middle. Just get him out the middle. You know, I just kind of want him out the middle of the pitch.
Swinging the ball in to Jared Bowen up against.
He is accurate though. You just said that yourself.
He is, and Bowen's good in the air, but I don't want to see it.
No, I know, but I don't know. I want Piquet. That midfield three is my wet dream. So Alvarez, Kudus, Alvarez, Phillips, and Piquet in the 10 is just would. I don't know. I don't think there would be a better midfield than that.
I get it, the midfield three. I'm not that big on it, because I think Piquet, on paper, he's on the left, Piquet. He's not really. So he goes wandering, and I think
he does what he wants.
He's allowed to do that because we've got a midfield three, because we've got Ward-Prowse, Souček, and Alvarez. He's able to pop up.
Yeah,
he doesn't venture over to the right hand side of the pitch. It's not a 100% free roll, but he can go 2/3 the way over, so that he's within 10-15 yards of Kudus if he wants to start playing with him. But I think he's able to do that because of that midfield that we've got. And I just think if you were to move him into the middle and bring in a winger, that comes with defensive responsibilities for Peta. Now, I know he has some as a left winger, but in possession, as soon as we've got it, he can go wandering if he wants to. And his link-up play with Emerson's just incredible. Emerson, we speak about how Ward-Prowse isn't as good without Alvarez, but Emerson's nowhere near as good without Peta in the team. No. So if you were to have someone, I'm not going to use Osman.
And you know something, the same could possibly be true if we ever saw it, or we did see it last year. I think we've only really started to see the real best of Peta since Emerson's come in.
Yeah.
I think the link-up play, I think they work well together. They understand each other. They're on the same wavelength. Yeah, so it's bi-directional, I think.
That's why I'm not a massive demander of seeing Peta move central. I think during games, if we're losing, certainly get him somewhere that he can impact the game. If we're up against a side that is playing with a low block, it becomes more difficult to break down. Then I'd like to see Peta move central then. But given how we set up, which is essentially to play counter-attacking football, I think there's a benefit to having Peta not sort of with defensive sort of jobs to do, if you know what I mean. Because quite often, while Ward-Prowse is good at pressing, while we're still playing with Ward-Prowse as up alongside Jadwell, quite often if we're in our own half, he'll sit back in with Souček and Alvarez. I don't want to see Peta in there, so that when we win the ball, I'd like to see Peta further up the pitch. And, you know, we've seen him as a false nine at times. And
yeah.
I'm not against it, truth be told. Peta sitting in the middle with Kudus and Bo on either side. I'm not. I
just think a possession. More of it. Not, when I say possession, I don't mean slow. I mean not have everyone camped back all the time. Leave some threats forward. You break with, you know, you've got Alvarez that can sit. You've got Phillips and Peta that can bomb up. And we know that he can put a ball on a sixpence. We know that. We've seen it. He does it time and time again, and that's with minimal options. Just imagine how good he would be if you had three attacking fast threats up front, dragging the defense all over the place. It would honestly, we would cut teams to ribbons. We would. Yeah. So you are right. There is merit in what you're saying, but for me, he's the best player on the team. Peta, he needs to be in the middle. He always is in the middle anyway. And like I say, I just think that all of his assists come from the middle.
Yeah, but that's because he can move. That's because he can wander, though.
No, I know. I think he just does. I think he just does that anyway, because I don't think he's the type of player that you can control. I think he is a maverick. I think he goes where he needs to go. You know,
Moyes has admitted that. Moyes has said, I give him more leeway than anyone else. He basically said, he frustrates me at times, but because of what he can do, I let him away with it. And I think that's, for all the criticism he gets for bad man management more. I think that's good man management in Paqueta's terms, where he allows Paqueta to get away with things that perhaps Benrahma wouldn't.
Could you imagine if he dropped Paqueta, Gio?
He wouldn't, though, because he knows
there'd be demonstrations.
There would, but Moyes knows not to do that. He's not that stupid. Paqueta plays when he wants to play. And Paqueta plays where he wants to. And I think I think I've been impressed by Paqueta's balance of being creative but also being disciplined, because at times he's stuck out on the left and he's got a defensive job to do, and he likes to roll his shorts up, doesn't he? One leg in particular. He always rolls up one leg.
He loves it. At one point at the start of the season, he was top of the charts for ball recoveries in central midfield.
Yeah, he was still up there, even though
he loves it. He loves getting stuck in. And we've had this kind of debate. We've had this debate before on other shows. About Paqueta. Now, look, I know we've had better players. I know that Payet was amazing, but he was a specialist at score goals, this, that, the other. But in terms of an all-round player that can do everything, which I think Paqueta is, I don't think, is he the best all-round player that West Ham have had in your lifetime? All-round player that is as good defensively as he is offensively? I don't think there's ever been anyone better than him. Not that I can think of, personally. He's like the complete player.
Do you know what's mad? There's one player that came to my mind, but I can't say. There's one player that came to my mind. Right?
Go on.
And it's a not yet, but Kudus.
Oh, possibly, maybe one day. Yeah. Well, he's a similar type of player.
He's got that defensive side to him as well, and I think he's I don't think he's as good creatively as Paqueta, and he doesn't have the skills as Paqueta, but I think he's got a better goal scoring threat than what Paqueta does. But in terms of all round, I couldn't think of anyone. Some names come to your head, but you dismiss them for one reason or another, don't you? And you think, no, it wasn't quite as good as that. It's quite as good as that. And I think, like you said, I think Payet was a better player for me, but in terms of, he was.
But he was an attacking player.
Yeah, he didn't want to defend.
He was amazing.
So in regards to contributing in all areas of the pitch, there'll be people in the comments that'll be coming up with their ones, and maybe
it's an interesting one anyway. It's an interesting one.
People that have witnessed players that was before my time might be popping up, but I can't bring them in when I've not seen them play. So I'll leave there. But anyway, Nick, thank you so much. I thoroughly enjoyed that chit chat. Hopefully you guys, well, actually, if you're listening right now, you've enjoyed it. You have. If you've listened to us talk for an hour, you've enjoyed this chit chat. Whether you like it or not, you've probably enjoyed it. Either that or you've got a lot of time to kill to listen to something you're not enjoying. But if you have, please do drop a like, comment by clicking thumbs up. Also, go head over to Claret And Booze. I assume you've already subscribed to that channel, but you haven't. And the link will be in the description below. Nick's latest video will be on your screen in approximately 10 seconds, which makes it easy for you to head on over there. But Nick, thank you.
Thank you. That. Lovely. Cheers for that, mate.
And also, drop a like on the video.
Sorry about the earthquake.
That's all right. Subscribe to Hammers Chat. Myself and Nick, we'll catch up with you very soon over on Claret And Booze. We'll see you then.
Cheers, mate. See you later.